It's time to break down the Buffalo Bills' Week 17 opponent, the challenges they present, and what the Bills need to do to deal with them today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of Go Bills and Buffalo's Run, also the co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Well, folks, welcome in. The Bills back at home, Week 17, to host the New York Jets. We're going to get ready for it today with my full primer. We're talking special teams, Bills offense against the Jets defense, Bills defense against the Jets offense, the keys to victory, all the stuff. Of course, the game will be played on Sunday, December 29th, 1 p.m. Eastern Time at Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park, New York. This will be the first Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time kick for the Bills since November 10th. Welcome back. Sunday, 1 o'clock kicks. The game will be broadcasted on CBS. Jim Nantz on the play-by-play. Tony Romo, the game analyst. Tracy Wolfson, the sideline reporter. I'm a little surprised that the number one broadcast crew for CBS is on this game, right? I mean, not that much on the line. The Jets are 4-11, but here we are. This will be the 129th all-time meeting between the Bills and Jets. The Bills have a 70-58 record all-time against the Jets under Sean McDermott. The Bills are 10-5 against the Jets. Of course, the most recent meeting coming back in Week 6, a 23-20 win over the Jets. And we all remember Taron Johnson coming away with that huge interception on the last drive to seal the win. The Bills, of course, enter this game at 12-3. They've already won the AFC East. They clinched the number 2 seed in the AFC with a win, and I think that's important. It's trending right now that Baltimore is going to be the 3 seed. And if the Bills as the 2 seed win in the wild card round, and the Ravens as the 3 seed win in the wild card round, which I think is pretty likely, if the Bills are the 2 seed, they get to host that game. If the Bills are the 3 seed and Baltimore's the 2 and they both win in the wild card round, the Bills are going back to Baltimore. I don't want to do that. And I think it should be a huge goal for this team to be the number 2 seed, which they can accomplish with a win in this game or next week. But go ahead and get it done right now and treat next week like a bye. That should be the plan. That should be the goal for the Buffalo Bills. The Jets are 4-11. Their 4 wins this season have come against the Titans, the Patriots, the Texans, and the Jaguars. Their 11 losses have come to the 49ers, Broncos, Vikings, Bills, Steelers, Patriots, Cardinals, Colts, Seahawks, Dolphins, and Rams. Head coach of this team, the interim head coach of this team, is Jeff Ulbrich, 47 years old. Of course, he replaced Robert Saleh back the week before the Bills played the Jets the first time this year. So in Week 6 was his debut, and the Jets are 2-8 since he took over the job. So the whole idea that if they fire Robert Saleh, they're going to get a spark, that didn't happen. They are worse. They were 2-3, or they're 2-3 when they made the switch. They're 2-8 since. Not great. Quarterback of this team, Aaron Rodgers. He's 40 years old, 6'2", 225 pounds. First round pick in 2005 out of Cal by the Green Bay Packers. Spent 18 years in Green Bay. Now this is his second season with the Jets. Of course, Aaron Rodgers has had a Hall of Fame career, multiple-time NFL MVP. He's won the Super Bowl. He's had a great career. 239 starts, a career record of 158, 86, and 1. So far this season, he's completing 63% of his passes, 234 passing yards per game, 24 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and a passer rating of 90.8. Let's dive into some of the metrics here. His advanced metrics, his EPA per dropback is minus 0.03. That's 18th in the NFL. 9.8% of his throws are deep. That's 21st. And when I say deep, I always mean 20 yards or more down the field. Yards after catch, 55.4% of Aaron Rodgers' yards come after the catch. That's 9th best in the league. His first read, he goes to his first read 68% of the time. That's 13th. Average time to throw, 2.46 seconds. That's 8th. Catchable ball rate, 73%. That's 23rd, not that high. His off-target throw percentage is very high, 20%. That's 27th in the league. Turnover-worthy throws, not a ton of those, 1.7%. That's 4th best. He does have drops, 5.3% drop rate. That's 7th highest in the NFL. Not facing a ton of pressure, 27% pressure rate on passing snaps. That is 7th lowest in the NFL. I think part of that's due to Rodgers getting the ball out of his hands pretty quickly. They run play action 22% of the time. That's 20th. They run screens 12% of the time. That's 11th in terms of frequency. Only 4.3 yards per attempt per screen, which is 29th out of 32 in the NFL. So we've seen this Aaron Rodgers season with the Jets, right? A year after he missed the entire season, basically. Comes back, all the hype. And Aaron Rodgers has been statistically okay. But I think when you watch him, you can kind of see some of the age on him, whether it's missed throws. And Aaron Rodgers, arguably one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. For him to be off target on 20% of throws is pretty crazy. He still has his moments, right? Like you still see Aaron Rodgers put one in there where only he can, but not that often. It's definitely a lot lower, and the misfires are certainly up. And then the mobility piece is not what it's been, right? Aaron Rodgers, I think, not a Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, dual threat guy, but a guy that could rely on his legs when needed in the past. And I don't think he has that mobility, which obviously takes away from him as a runner, but also just with being able to navigate the pocket and get outside of structure and throw on the run. And that's something that Aaron Rodgers has been very good at in his career. And that's not really in the arsenal for him at this point. So you're seeing the age on Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he still can throw some of the most beautiful throws you'll ever see, but not the consistency that made him or has made him a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback. All right, let's talk about the rest of this Jets offense, the weapons, and of course the Bills' keys defensively against the Jets. Folks, be sure to stick with me. There's nothing quite like being at the stadium. You know, I've been to some really cool games like late in the season. I went to that LSU-Alabama game in Tuscaloosa, the Joe Burrow versus Tua game that pretty much put LSU on the track to winning the SEC and going to the national title game. Well, if you want to get to the stadium and see some of those big moments, then you have to go to Game Time. Game Time is the fast and easy way to purchase tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. The app is awesome. I mean, they give you flash deals. They give you a picture right from your seat so you know exactly what to expect in terms of the views when you get to the stadium. When you buy a ticket, they send it right to your phone so you don't have to dig through emails to find it. And they specialize in last-minute tickets. So, you know, maybe you can't buy those tickets in advance. You're unsure of your availability. They're going to give you a great deal on a ticket right up until the day of the event. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. The offensive coordinator for the Jets is Todd Downing. He took over from Nathaniel Hackett in terms of the play calling duties the same week that the Bills played the Jets the first time. And so he's held this role since then. And Todd Downing has been the Jets passing coordinator since the start of the season, the full-time play caller starting in week 6. He does have experience, though. I mean, he had 2 seasons as the Titans offensive coordinator in 2021 and 2022. He was the Raiders offensive coordinator in 2017. Metrically, this offense has not been too good. 24th in scoring at 19.5 points per game. 16th in EPA per play on offense, 17th in EPA per pass. But I think the piece of the pie that's really missing this year is the rushing production. 28th in EPA per rush. The year that many thought Breece Hall would have hasn't happened. They're 39% on third down. That's 13th. They're 52% scoring in the red zone. That is 24th. Personnel-wise, let's look into it. And at wide receiver, this is definitely a big shift from last time. The Bills didn't play against Devonte Adams. And, of course, they've traded for Devonte Adams literally the same week, if I'm not mistaken, because they had that big blunder with Mike Williams where he didn't hold the red line on the vertical throw, and Aaron Rodgers blamed that on the interception that Taron Johnson made. But Devonte Adams is in the mix here, and Devonte Adams is still a great player. I don't know that he's still the guy that, 5 years ago you thought could go out and have 1,700 yards and 15 touchdowns and was going to catch every pass from Aaron Rodgers, but still very, very potent. He's got that savvy to him, right? I think you get a certain point in the NFL as a receiver where you just kind of have a good feel for space. You have a good feel for route running. Your hands are consistent. You know how to position yourself to win at the catch point, and Devonte Adams is very much that. And they also have Garrett Wilson, who is a good player, obviously. I thought of all the games this year that I've watched, Christian Benford in particular, I thought Garrett Wilson was the guy that had the most production against him. And then, of course, Allen Lazard, who I think is discount Gabe Davis, is their other receiver. But we'll get to it here in just a second. Make no mistake about it. When Aaron Rodgers drops back to pass, he's throwing the ball to Adams or he's throwing the ball to Wilson, right? He's not really getting too many other guys involved in this passing game. At tight end, they got a decent one in Tyler Conklin. I think he's a serviceable starter, has some athleticism, not a huge part of this offense, but a guy that, a few times a game, they'll throw him the ball, and I think he's got some ability. And the backup is Jeremy Ruckert, young player that I think is your classic number 2 tight end, size, can block a little bit, not super dynamic in the passing game, but put him in space, he'll catch a ball, turn around and get tackled, that type of guy. The running back tandem, not necessarily what they thought. I already mentioned this. Breece Hall didn't quite have the big year many expected, and still a potent playmaker, right? He's skilled, but a lot of thoughts that he could be, one of the more productive backs in the league. That just hasn't happened. There was hype for Braylon Allen earlier in the year. I don't think he's quite really built on that. He's a young player out of Wisconsin, a big 240-pound back. Isaiah Davis, who I think is a rookie out of South Dakota State's been getting some run here in the backfield. But this is still obviously the Breece Hall show. When it comes to target distribution in this passing game, and I want to go back to week 7 when Devonte Adams arrived. This is how, since he's been on the team, this is how the targets have been. Devonte Adams, 90. Garrett Wilson, 74. Breece Hall, 36. Massive drop-off. Tyler Conklin has 29 targets. Jeremy Ruckert, 16. Allen Lazard, 15. So when Aaron Rodgers drops back to pass, it's going to Adams or Wilson. Offensive line-wise, they have some question marks here in terms of who's going to play. At left tackle, Tyron Smith's on injured reserve. The backup is the first-round pick, Olu Fashanu, who's got injured last week against the Rams. And now Max Mitchell, their third tackle, is going to have to step in and play. He's played a little bit for them throughout the years, but he's struggled a ton, and he'll have to step in at left tackle. Their left guard is John Simpson, good, solid veteran player. Their center is Joe Tippmann, who looks like he's going to be an absolute stud for them. Second-year player out of Wisconsin, has the type of makeup that has me thinking he can be one of the better centers in the game. I think he's on that type of course. Their right guard is Elijah Vera Tucker. Whenever he's healthy, he's a quality starter for them. He didn't practice at least on Wednesday. I don't know the status since then, but he's a question mark for this game. The right tackle is Morgan Moses, a longtime solid starter in the NFL. He didn't practice on Wednesday as well. So they're down their left tackle, and the right guard and the right tackle, very much a question mark at this point. So pay attention to the reports throughout the course of the week. That could be a notable conversation in this game where being down 3 starters on the offensive line, including both your tackles and your backup tackle, you're talking about getting to your 4th and 5th tackle. That's going to be that's tough, right? And the Jets are potentially staring at that. So what are my keys for this Bills defense against this Jets offense? Number 1 is you got to beat up on these tackles. I mean, if these guys are going into this game with Max Mitchell and some guy off the practice squad at right tackle, boy, you better eat those guys alive. you better eat those guys alive. And you talk about football and winning in the trenches and things starting up front. Got a great opportunity to win that battle in a big way. Number 2 is Adams and Wilson. Like, you know what's going to happen. This is a very defined offense. They're going to throw the ball to Adams and Wilson. They're going to run the ball with Breece Hall. Have your answers. And we'll see if the Bills get Rasul Douglas back this week. If they do, that's kind of fun, right? You know, Rasul Douglas and Devonte Adams have played against each other quite a bit in practice. Their mutual time together in Green Bay. And then Christian Benford, I'm sure he wants to get back onto the field and go toe-to-toe with Garrett Wilson again. But again, Hall, Wilson, Adams, that's who's getting the ball. It's not like the Bills, right, where there's like 9 or 11 guys that, they'll probably have a chance to make some plays. It's those 3 guys. And then number 3 is you have to defend all 4 downs. This Jets team made a choice last week that they weren't going to punt. I think they were like the second team in the history of the NFL to not punt in the game and score less than 10 points, which is what happened last week against the Rams. And they went for it on 4th and 2 from the Rams 20. They went for it 4th and 1 from the Jets 33. They didn't get it. They went 4th and 3 from the Rams 34. They went 4th and 4 from the Rams 13. And they went 4th and 4 from the Jets 47. They were 2 for 5, but they didn't punt. It's not because they weren't in situations to punt. They just, I guess they want to score touchdowns. And, they're at that point, they're a 3-11 team or 4-11 team. Let's go out there and not punt. So be mindful of that. They're gonna go for it, right? This is a team with nothing to lose, and they're playing like they have nothing to lose. So you got to defend all 4 downs against the Jets, because if it's close, they're going to go for it. And they went for it on, what was it, a 4th and they went for it on a 4th and 1 from their own 33. That's where they're at. So be ready to defend all 4 downs. And the Bills have been literally terrible this season on 3rd down. So good opportunity to shore up some of that here in a game where take care of your business and go be the 2 seed. All right, we got to talk about this Jets defense against the Bills offense on the other side of it. Folks, be sure to stick with me. Time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free, that's right, free online courses, including Constitution 101, Introduction to Free Market Economics, The Rise and Fall of the Roman Republic, and a brand new documentary-style course on Marxism, Socialism, and Communism. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced, so you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. Hillsdale.edu/lockedon. Folks, as you know, we just had the rally on the river at Buffalo River Works, and that property is incredible. One of the coolest places I've ever been to. So much to do, so much to eat, great drinks, great everything. I mean, literally a great place to bring your family, great place to go hang out. It's awesome. And I recently found out that their other location was the first brew pub in Buffalo, the beautiful red brick Pearl Street Grill and Brewery. Pearl Street just remodeled their main floor, so the dining room now converts into a stage for live music after Sabres home games, on the weekends, and even during brunches. You get live music all year round. And of course, many Bills fans have been to weddings, at Pearl Street and Buffalo Riverworks, and their in-house wedding coordinators make the whole process easy, fun, and customizable. If you want an elegant, historic wedding and with, beautiful patios and sunset photos, that's no problem. How about a custom Buffalo Bills themed wedding? If you can dream it up, they can make it happen. This is also true for holiday parties, corporate events, team building, casual happy hours, all kinds of events. And also sports fans, you can reserve groups to watch the games on the big screen at Buffalo Riverworks. Or if you're headed to a Sabres home game this year, be sure to stop by Pearl Street before, after, or during the game to enjoy some live music, crispy wings that are now made in tallow instead of seed oils. So that's awesome in terms of making those more healthy, or one of their new OM organic beers, which are delicious. Pearl Street Grill and Brewery and Buffalo Riverworks, the most authentically Buffalo venues for everything from dinner to live music to your perfect wedding. PearlStreetGrill.com or BuffaloRiverworks.com. Let's talk about this Jets defense. And it's coordinated by their head coach, or their interim head coach, Jeff Ulbrich, who's been their defensive coordinator since 2021. And I think the thing that's notable here is that this is a heavy man coverage defense, 5th in man coverage rate. And the Patriots were even higher. I think they're 3rd in man coverage rate. And the Bills struggled against man coverage against the Patriots. Josh Allen was 8 of 18 throwing the ball against man coverage. And you go back to some of his games earlier in the year against Houston and Baltimore, that's been some of the defenses that give him some trouble. And I don't know that it's necessarily that Josh Allen is not good against man coverage. I think it's just that's going to stress your relationships with these new receivers, right? And I think you've seen some variance. Against Detroit, man coverage, the Bills, blew the door off them offensively. But sometimes this year it hasn't really worked out that way, and they're going to be challenged in that capacity in this game. Metrically, the Jets are giving up 23 points per game. That's 16th in the NFL, 22nd in EPA per play, 18th in EPA per pass, 24th in EPA per rush. They give up a third down conversion 38% of the time. That's 13th. They give up a touchdown to the red zone 58% of the time. That is 17th. Let's talk about their personnel. Their defensive tackles, their main guy, Quinnen Williams, one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL. He missed last week with a hamstring injury. We'll see if he goes this week against Buffalo. Obviously, that's a huge deal. If he can't go, this defensive tackle situation is not good at all. His running mate, I think there's already a question with his running mate, who is Javon Kinlaw, who I think is highly inconsistent, poor anchor against the run, very poor run defender. He's occasionally can shoot a gap and rush the passer, but just a very inconsistent player that has not met the hype of him being a first-round pick back when he was with the 49ers. They have Solomon Thomas, who's this, he's their Dewan Smoot type player that will reduce inside, a little bit leaner, can rush interior gaps, but again, not much of a run defender. And then Leonard Taylor, who's an undrafted free agent, if I'm not mistaken, out of Miami, who's had to play a ton this year. Or not a ton, but a reasonable amount, more than you'd expect from a UDFA. He's still finding his way in the league. But if they don't have Quinnen Williams, that's gonna be a problem for them. On the edge, Will McDonald, their first-round pick last year, has had some good pass rush production this year. Sacks are looking good. Run defense, not so much, but he can get after the quarterback a little bit. Michael Clemens is probably their most firm, traditional, 275-pound, 4-3 defensive end, more of a depth player, but a solid one. And they have Hassan Reddick back. Obviously, there's been a big saga with that. Traded for him, contract dispute. He's back. Is he playing at a high level? No, not compared to what we saw in Philadelphia, but certainly elevates their defensive line with the type of impact he's capable of. So he'll be part of the mix this time around. At linebacker, it's Quincy Williams and Jamian Sherwood. C.J. Mosley is injured, but I think Quincy Williams is a very, very good linebacker. And I think one of the quiet stories of player development in the NFL that probably not getting enough attention is Jamian Sherwood, who was a safety at Auburn, has converted to linebacker, got a lot of opportunity to play this year in place of C.J. Mosley, and he looks like he's going to be a find for them. I think if Sherwood and Williams were their linebackers next year, I'd be pretty excited about that if I were a Jets fan. They both look pretty strong to me. At cornerback, DJ Reed, who's I think is having the best season of a Jets corner, which means I think he's playing better than Sauce Gardner. He's having a great season. He'll be one of their starters. And then Sauce Gardner, we'll see what happens there. He missed, he didn't finish the game against the Rams and was not practicing on Wednesday. If he can't go, I guess it would be Brandon Eccles, who's more of a special teams player that provides depth in that spot, which would be a notable loss for them. And the slot, it's Isaiah Oliver. He's a player I've liked for a long time in the NFL. Playing in the slot, of course, Michael Carter was kind of their guy, but I think Isaiah Oliver might be a better player. He's really impressed me throughout his career, particularly back with the Falcons. I think he could be an answer for them, and he's their starter now. At safety, they have Chuck Clark and Tony Adams. Tony Adams got hurt against the Rams. If he can't go, then Ashton Davis can play, who's an experienced depth player for them that has a lot of athleticism. But a couple of savvy veterans, or at least Chuck Clark's a savvy veteran. Tony Adams, a recent undrafted player out of Penn State who's become a starter for them in his third season. They're a solid pair, but obviously they take a hit there if Ashton Davis has to go. So what are my keys for the Bills against this Jets defense? Number one, take profits in the passing game. And really, this is probably my biggest concern right now with Josh Allen. And I wrote about this for the Substack. I did my article. I do a weekly article on Josh Allen. It's called Josh Allen Weekly. And I really dive into all kinds of metrics about him, and I discuss them. And against New England, Josh got away from a lot of efficiency stuff. His average depth of target was way high. Going to his first read was way low, like 37% of the time. Deep ball rate way too high. In the Bills' vertical passing offense just has not been good this year. And the challenge with that is the metrics are trending up, right, in terms of frequency. They're throwing the ball down the field more than ever with less success. It's like, doesn't make sense. Kind of some concerns, some accuracy issues for Josh this year for sure. And I think he reverted to some bad habits against New England, stuff that showed up against Houston and Baltimore. Now, he responded to the Houston and Baltimore games with 9 games of excellent performance that had everybody saying that he's the NFL MVP. So is this a little blip in the radar? Probably, but there's some habits that I've watched Josh Allen every snap for his whole career, studied them all. I have a good feel for him. And, the game against New England was kind of letting some bad habits back into the picture. And that needs to go away very quickly. So where does that start? It starts with just run the freaking offense. Take the profits in the passing game. Don't go big play hunting and just run the offense. And when you got to do something cool, but it doesn't have to be all the time. The problem was every once in a while, Josh Allen will revert to bad habits and it will turn into a monster performance like it did against the Lions. That's what happened. He did the same stuff against New England that he did against the Lions, and he didn't get away with it to the same level that he did against Detroit. And you led to an inefficient offensive attack. So if he does it and gets away with it, it's the Lions game. If he does it and he doesn't get away with it, it's what you saw against the Patriots, the Ravens, and the Texans. So take profits in the passing game. Josh Allen is at his best when he's efficient, patient, and takes profits. Number 2 is pound the rock. The Bills ran the ball on this team earlier this year. I don't think they have very good run defending defensive linemen, especially if they don't have Quinnen Williams. I mean, if you're looking at a front 4 with Michael Clemens, Will McDonald, Solomon Thomas, and Javon Kinlaw, you should run the ball all over that football team. So pound the rock. Number 3 is win the game and rest. Win this game and treat week 18 like it's your bye week. And I know that's not necessarily a specific offensive key, but the point remains. Go get your work done in this game. And you can't rest everybody because that's just impossible, but you can rest a good amount of players. And in week 18, that's got to be the priority. Get this dub, get the 2 seed, and rest, and let's get ready for the playoffs. Special teams real quick. Their kicker is Anders Carlson. I think he's the 3rd kicker they've been through this year. Was a 6th-round pick of the Packers last year. He's already been on 3 different teams. 12 of 15 on extra points, 13 of 15 on field goals. And they also signed a kicker to the practice squad this week, Greg Joseph. So we'll see what happens with their kicker situation. Their punter might not matter. It's Thomas Morstead, excellent NFL punter, 38 years old. I know his EPA numbers are down this year, but I think he's been one of the best control, directional, hang time, pin 'em deep punters really of my lifetime. And he's still really solid at 38, but they might not punt, right? They're very much YOLO mode right now. The returner is Xavier Gibson, who had a great rookie season. I don't think he's really built upon that this year. All the numbers are down for him, but obviously we know he's potent because he cost the Bills a win in 2023. So there you have it, folks. The Bills against the Jets. Take nothing for granted, obviously. I shouldn't have to remind you of that. If you've watched the Bills at all, ever in your life, you should know that you take nothing for granted. But this is important. Go win this game and be the 2 seed, and let's rest next week. That's got to be the goal. But none of that matters unless you take care of this game. Now, the Bills could go beat the Patriots they could lose this game, go beat the Patriots on the road next week, and they'll still be the number 2 seed. But you won't have the benefit of the bye. I'm calling it a bye, which is a rest week next week. That's got to be the priority. Go take care of your business, put it all into this game, and rest, and let's get ready for whatever path exists in the playoffs. All right, folks, that's it for today. One more conversation coming your way, of course. You'll get my final thoughts on the game, injury update from Dr. Kyle Trimble. There's some stuff lingering there. And, of course, my 5 predictions for Sunday. So don't miss it. Make sure that you're subscribed. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills. And I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.